We have something similar to the last one we just did. But in this case, we have, first of all, we know that cosine squared u, let's use u this time, minus sine squared u equals to a cosine 2u. Okay? Another identity for cosine 2u is where we have cosine 2u equals to 1, or we have here 1 minus 2 sine squared u, and another one for cosine 2u is 2 cosine squared u minus 1. Okay, so those are the three different identities for cosine 2u. So if we have a problem such as cosine squared, but instead of u we're going to use 5x, minus sine squared 5x, and we want to prove that equals to cosine 10x. So here we have, this is similar to the cosine squared u minus sine squared u is cosine 2u, except for here the u is equivalent to 5x. So the cosine 2u, that would be like saying cosine 2 times 5x. It gives you 10x. So we want to prove that those two sides are equal. So what we need to do here is we need to take one of each of these cosine 2u's, where one that has sine squared in it, put a cosine 2u in it. One that has a cosine squared in it equals to cosine 2u. So we're going to take sine squared, and we're going to solve for sine squared here. And we're going to substitute it in for that sine squared. And here we have a cosine squared, solve for cosine squared, and we're going to substitute it into this one. Simplify it, and we'll get what we have on the right-hand side. Okay? So we're saying that u equals to 5x. Alright? So to start with, we're going to split this in two. Okay, this has got that 2 cosine squared u in it. So let's look at that. We have 2 cosine squared u minus 1 equals to 2, equals to cosine rather, 2u. Okay, so it's like we're splitting this in half. And let's just look at solve for cosine squared. Okay, u. Okay, so that means we have to add 1 to both sides. And the reason why we're doing this is we want to go from cosine squared to cosine 2u. We want the problem to have cosine 2u in it. Right now it has cosine squared in it, so we want to go to cosine 2u. Okay, so that means we have 2 cosine squared u equals to cosine 2u plus 1. And now we want to divide by 2. We're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get cosine squared u equals to cosine 2u plus 1 over 2. So now at this point we're going to substitute the 5x in for u. Okay, so now we're going to put in here cosine squared 5x equals to cosine 2 times 5x plus 1 2. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to convert sine squared. So we're going to take this cosine 2u equals to 1 minus sine. 1 minus 2 sine squared u. And we're going to solve for sine squared u. Okay? So that we get 2 cosine 2u in that. Okay, now at this point we're going to go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. And we get a negative 2 sine squared u equals to a negative 1 plus cosine 2u. And now at this point, I find it easier to go ahead and just divide both sides, not divide the 2 yet. We're going to divide both sides just by a negative 1 so that we go ahead and change the signs of everything. Okay? So that makes this a positive 2 sine squared u equals to 1 minus cosine 2u. So all we did is just change the signs. We haven't divided 2 yet. Now we can divide the 2. Divide the 2. And it just works out a little bit easier this way. And so we get sine squared u equals to 1 minus cosine 2u. And that's all over 2. And so now we're going to substitute in the 5x and for the u. So this is going to be cosine, or this is going to be sine rather, squared. We have 5x in there equals to 1 minus cosine 2. And we're going to put the 5x in there for the u. And that's all over 2. Okay, now we're going to take this cosine, we're going to take this cosine squared 5x, and we're going to substitute it in there. And we're going to take the other, this other, move that out of the way. We're going to take this other sine squared 5x, and we're going to substitute it into the other one. Okay? So this cosine squared, we're going to substitute this 2 times 5x and plus 1 over 2, and for cosine squared 5x. Alright? So that's going to be this cosine squared 5x. That is now